All right. So what I do, guys, it's not percentage based. It's based on what does the data tell me. Okay. And we can fully demonstrate this. Hold on. I had to get Majestic open. Make sure I'm still logged in. I am. Okay, we're good. Okay. So here's an example. This is one of my lead gen assets. And what we do is this is the keyword down here that was used to determine these competitive metrics, right? So we searched tree service, Leesburg, VA, and these are the top ranked competitors and the position in which they were ranked at the time that this report was generated. Okay. And these are like for like comparisons. We're not comparing Yelp, Home Advisor, Lawn Starter, Angie, any of that shit, because those are directory sites. Those are not, they don't play by the same set of rules. So these are other tree service sites, not directory sites that we're comparing to. Okay. So what we do is we analyze the backlinks that are pointing, the external backlinks pointing those specific URLs, and not just that version of the URL. It's all 4 versions of the URL. I know I've talked about this dozens of times, but I always have to repeat this because I get this question even from link building clients that say, well, how come my data is vastly different than what your data is as far as the number of backlinks? And I always have to explain this. So I'm going to go through this again right now. This is all 4 of these versions, or all 4 versions, I should say, of this URL, these URLs right here, all resolved to the same location, right? So we have to analyze the backlink profile of every one of those in order to get a true picture of the backlink profile. If you just analyze one domain, one version of the URL, you're only getting a partial picture. Does that make sense, guys? Okay, so what do I mean by that? Let me open up Majestic and I'll demonstrate this. This is the most current version of the URL for this tree service contractor, for this company, okay? How do I know that? Well, go visit the URL. You just copy it out of the browser, right? Copy it out of the browser, paste it in. That is the most current version of the URL. So HTTPS with www. You can see there are backlinks, external backlinks pointing to this very specific version of the URL, only to this URL from 7 referring domains. Now, if I go here and I remove the S and I click go, there are backlinks pointing to that version of the URL without the SSL certificate from 13 referring domains. Okay. If I get rid of the www, there may be a different set of values. Backlinks from 5 referring domains. Now, if I add the S back in without the www now, there might even be another set of values. There are from 3 referring domains. Does that make sense? So you can understand if all we do is analyze the current ranking URL and we don't analyze the other 3 versions of that same URL that all resolve to the same location, we're not getting a true picture, right? We don't really know the full backlink profile. And so it's very important that you always are analyzing all 4 versions of the same URL when you're doing backlink analysis, or else you're only getting a partial picture, right? And I've showed this before, but let me just jump back in here for a minute and I'll demonstrate this. Guys, this is a free tool. Well, it's SEO Tools for Excel is a free, it's an add-on that you can add to Excel. And a lot of the tools require a paid license. But Majestic's integration is free, but you have to have a paid Majestic account in order for it to work. Does that make sense? So, for example, if we go over here to, let's go to the landing page. I'll just demonstrate this real quick. This is an old workbook. My workbooks don't really look like this anymore, but that's all right. I just want to demonstrate this really quick because we just, excuse me, we just did this manually in Majestic, and that's not an efficient way to do that, right? To monitor, look at all. And I'm going to get back to what the original question was how do you determine how many links to build? I promise I'm going somewhere with this. But first, what we do is make sure that you understand how to do the competition analysis, because that's what determines to me how many links I'm going to build direct to the money site is what the competitors are doing, right? That's how I always determine how many links to build. Once I kind of get my topical trust flow into an appropriate range and my anchor text ratios into an appropriate range, then I shift almost exclusively my link building to tier 2. or other targets on the money site, other pages where I can inject relevance and distribute the link or the backlinks across a more broader, more evenly across the site. Okay. But always starting with the page that I want to rank for the specific search query. I always analyze the competitors first to determine what they're doing. And then that's what I base on how many links do I need, and then that I can point directly to this. And I always try to stay under the average number of backlinks from the top ranked competitors, if possible. In some cases, that's not possible. Like a lot of link building clients come to me and they've already got 5 times more backlinks than what the average of their competitors do. And there's nothing I can do about that other than to try to manipulate anchor text ratios and topical trust flow with as few links as possible, which can be done, right? But it's always better if there's less number of backlinks pointing to that specific page than the average number of backlinks from the top ranked competitors for the same search query, right? Because then that means like we can, remember guys, and I say this on my sales calls for link building stuff, in SEO, you always want to play in the middle of a crowd. You don't want to stick your head up above the crowd because Google will kick your face in, like seriously. So you want to play in the middle of a crowd, but you just want to do everything better, right? Does that make sense? So anyway, with this, let me jump back over here. We'll go to Majestic. I'm going to say, I want to look at backlinks. I'm going to log in. And now it's probably small. I don't know if all that other stuff, whatever. I think because of this, it's anyways, hopefully you guys can see it. What I would do is then take these 4, well, my VA does all this now, but, or one of my VAs. I just hired 6 new people in the last 2 weeks. So our team is like 15, 16 people now, I think. 16 or 18 people, actually. It's crazy. Anyway, I put all 4 of these links in here like that. I'm going to load because I've already got one, target URL backlinks, select and paste those back in again. And what this does is when I'm only looking at fresh index. By the way, that's another discrepancy that I get because a lot of people come to me that they use Ahrefs. Don't all SEOs, like for the last several years, like Ahrefs has been industry standard. I don't care about Ahrefs data because it doesn't show topical relevance. So again, I just stick with Majestic, but people say, well, Ahrefs shows we have significantly more backlinks than what Majestic shows. Well, yeah, because Majestic shows what they call the fresh index, or if you have a pro level account or higher, you can also look at what they call the historic index. But Majestic's fresh index takes there's some automatic filters applied to the fresh index. Number one is that it's only looking at links that are providing some measurable link equity, like some sort of, and it's Majestic's own proprietary algorithm that determines whether the links are providing some level of value or not. So the fresh index filters out links that are completely insignificant to provide no value, according to Majestic's algorithm. Does that make sense? But also it looks at links that it has determined have atrophied. It eliminates those from the fresh index. The historic index will show all that stuff. But what do I mean by that? Well, link atrophy is a real thing, right? That's where what's called link atrophy, another term for it is link decay, which is where a link that is placed on a page that never gets any activity, that it loses its value over time. And the speed with which a link decays varies depending on multiple factors, mostly traffic factors, like for the page or the domain, combination of all of that. And I've talked about this before, but if your link is placed on a page and the page doesn't get any traffic, but the domain gets traffic, then that link will decay, but it decays slower than if it's placed on a page that both the page and the domain never get any traffic. So think about like PBNs, guys, that don't get any traffic, which is why I love the CTRify sites, because they get natural organic traffic, which means those links are more valuable. But you can manipulate that with CTRify or CTR Booster or any sort of CTR manipulation tool that you can manipulate or set up referral traffic campaigns. You could always manipulate traffic signals to your PBNs, right? So, but I like CTRify sites because they almost instantly start generating natural organic traffic. So that's why those links don't atrophy, right? Or at least not as quickly. So what I'm saying is if you have a link on a page and the page is getting traffic, okay, so let's start with the top. What is the best kind of link? What is a kind of link that does not decay or that doesn't atrophy? It's a link that's placed on a page that both gets traffic as well as the link gets click activity. That's why I send click activity through tier 1 links, because it prevents them from decaying, right? Losing value, losing strength. So if there's clicks on that link, that means it's not going to decay. And I don't know that maybe there's some sort of diminishing value over time. Maybe there is, but if the link is placed on a page and the page gets traffic, but the link never gets any clicks, that link does decay, but it decays very, very slowly because the page is getting traffic. If the link is placed on a page and the page never gets any traffic, but the domain gets a lot of traffic, considerable traffic, then that link decays faster than if it was on a page that gets traffic but never gets any click. But it still decays slower than if it's on a page that is both the page never gets any traffic and the domain never gets any traffic. Does that make sense? So you can see there's like multiple factors that determine the rate at which it decays or loses strength. So that's why I said, sending CTR signals, engagement signals through a tier 1 link keeps it as a more stronger or more valuable link. So anyway, all that to come back to say, Ahrefs, from what I understand, because I don't use it really anymore, is that it doesn't take any of that into account. So you're going to see that just like SEMrush, right? SEMrush shows all the links, no matter how low quality they are, no matter how old they are, whether there's any value or not, they show them all. And by the way, if you guys don't use SEMrush, you know that their link toxicity is overly sensitive. But that's why, like Majestic, when you're looking at the fresh index, this is all it's its own proprietary algorithm that's applied to all of this, but it's only looking at links that have not fully atrophied according to its own parameters, and that are providing measurable value, again, according to its own algorithm. Okay. I trust it. It's good enough. It's been working well for me for this entire year. Okay. Trusting those metrics. So, okay. So I put the 4 URLs in here. We're going to look at the data sources fresh. I'm going to look at a maximum of 3 backlinks per referring domain in this view. When I'm doing this, like on a sales call or something like that, I only look at a maximum of 1 backlink per referring domain. And that's because there's diminishing value from multiple backlinks from the same source domain, right? And Majestic actually has a weighting tag feature that automatically tells you which links are weighted the heaviest from the same. If you get multiple links from the same source domain, it will tell you. There's a tagging feature in there: distinct, notable duplicates, non-notable duplicates. Does that make sense? Those are like the 3 tagging structures. So when you get multiple links from the same source domain, like I said, there's always going to be one link that is weighted the heaviest. It's the most prominent link from that source, period. It's always, and I don't know how that's determined, but there's always one link that is going to be considered the heaviest link from from a referring or source domain. Subsequent links can still have measurable value, but at some point they start to become duplicate links. Like, consider this: a site-wide link, like a footer link, something like that. That link's going to be present on every page. One instance of it, probably the homepage version of it, is going to be the one that is given the most weight. But on every other page, generally, that's how that would work for a site-wide link. It's going to be the one that's listed on the homepage that is the distinct link. The other ones on all the other pages and posts and tag pages and category archive pages and all of that, those are going to be called duplicates, right? And so those links are basically devalued. So that's why we use a maximum for this data, 3 backlinks, because these are going to show the 3 most valuable links from the same referring domain, if there happens to be more than 1 link from the same referring domain. Does that make sense? Now, when I'm doing this on a call, like what I was about to demonstrate here, if we go look at the backlinks here, I always leave it at 1 because it simplifies the data. Does that make sense? But on these type of analyses, when we do it with the SEO tools for Excel, we always do it with 3 because it's showing us the data from the 3 most valuable backlinks according to Majestic's algorithm. Okay. So anyways, I know that was a lot to explain, but I just want to explain why, because I get this question all the time from link building clients about, because they use Ahrefs, which I don't care about Ahrefs data. And I don't know how many times I got to say that, but I don't care. Somebody said, well, Ahrefs says, okay, well, that's great. I mean, what do you want me to do with that? I don't care about Ahrefs data. I really don't. But I just try to explain where the discrepancies come from. So with that said, then the other settings that I do is source URL, target URL, anchor text. I like to flag to delete it, and then I like to flag to no follow. Okay. All that said, I'm just going to, it should put it here anyway. So this is now pulling in. You always want to make sure that you have your cell selected where you want the data to begin, because if you have it like down here, It'll be shifted over and down. It's strange. Anyway, put it up here. And then what we do is we expand the anchor text column like this. We can actually shut this now. And then what I do is sort the data. And I know I've demonstrated this before, guys, but I'll make this quick. I just want to go through this one time. So I want to sort the data by anchor text. A to Z is fine. Or excuse me, I'm sorry, I got it out of order for a minute. Let me go back. I want to go to data and I want to sort by flag deleted and flag no follow first. So I want to do flag deleted, smallest to largest, or largest to smallest puts the value of 0, or excuse me, 1 at top. So that's a better way to do it. That's typically how I do it. I'm a little rusty on this because I don't do this very often anymore. My VAs do it. Anyway, so you can see flag deleted right here. Well, I don't want to analyze that. There's no reason to analyze deleted links, right? So let's get rid of those. All right, next thing we're going to do, go back to sort. And I want to sort by flag no follow. And I want largest to smallest because the value of 1 means it's no follow. Value of 0 means it's do follow, right? So I want to delete those. And now here's what's left. Okay, so these are the backlinks here. And by the way, why do we delete or eliminate no follow links? Guys, no follow links have SEO value. And if anybody tells you that they don't, they're full of shit. No follow links absolutely have SEO value, but they don't affect anchor text ratios, right? No follow anchors do not affect anchor text ratios. So there's no reason to analyze that when determining anchor text ratio, right? So that's why we eliminate those. But no follow links, it was funny. It was shit, this 6 or 7 years ago now, but I had somebody negative SEO one of my lead gen assets because I showed it in a public setting outside of the mastermind, on like Hump Day Hangouts or whatever. Anyways, somebody probably thought they were going to be cute and get the site penalized. So they hit the site with the exact match keyword anchor with tens of thousands of spam links, but was exact match keyword anchor, but they were all no followed. And guess what? I ranked #1 for that keyword. I wasn't ranking #1 until they spammed it. They tried to negative SEO it, but they hit it with it was thousands. I don't know if it was tens of thousands, but they hit it with thousands of backlinks that were all one exact match keyword anchor, or what I would call a target anchor. And but they were 100% no follow links, and that ranked #1 and didn't budge. Like for months it didn't budge. And it was like, hey, thanks, whoever negative SEO'd me, like, actually did me a favor. And that's when I realized, that was when I really realized like how powerful no follow links truly are. But they don't affect anchor text ratios. If they did, then that would have given me an over optimized anchor text profile, right? And I would have had a penalty from it. But instead I ranked #1. So, so anyway, that said, so now what's left is these keywords, right? Or excuse me, these anchor texts. So I expand the anchor text column so that we can fully see what it says. And it sometimes helps just because it's a little bit of bleed off or run off or whatever to separate it out like that. And then what we're going to do is add one more column right here. And I always call this one anchor type. And I like to center it. My VAs don't, and it kind of drives me nuts when they're not centered for whatever reason. It just drives me crazy. I'm kind of OCD about some things, and this is one of them. So anyways, let me move this over. And then what we do is we sort by anchor text. Lastly, we do that just because it puts them all in groups of like for like anchors. So we're going to say anchor text, A to Z, Z to A, it doesn't matter. And then what we do is we can very quickly classify these anchors into 1 of 5 categories, right? What are the categories? Well, they're listed here. Brand/URL is 1. Miscellaneous anchors, so generics, click here, learn more, read more, this post, website, etc. Empty/frame anchors, so that's redirect URL, an iframe or an embed, or a image anchor that does not contain alt text. Target anchor is keyword plus location modifier, so keyword plus city, city plus keyword, keyword plus near me, one of the variants of near me, so close by, in my area, nearby, around me, etc. And then lastly, topic anchors, which are keyword only, so that's product or service keywords only without location modifiers. So it's one of those 5 categories, right? So we come back to, we come back to here, and we can very quickly go through here and say, okay, miscellaneous, 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 brand URL, right? Brand URL. The rest of these look like all brand URLs. That's what I call a compound anchor, right? So that's keyword, or excuse me, brand plus location modifier, or it could be brand plus keyword. But the rest of these are all, the way that I would do them is all brand. But very quickly, we just, again, we're done, right? We just now identified and classified the anchor text of all of the backlinks pointing to that specific URL, or all 4 versions of that homepage URL. Does that make sense? And so now we can very quickly, I just go right here and just highlight those 3 of the same anchor type. And you can see down here, it's very, very small, I'm sure on your end, guys, but it shows right here a count of 3. So now I can jump back over to this, and I could put right here and put a count of 3 for miscellaneous as it shows. Does that make sense? And by the way, this data is probably updated since this was ran originally, but apparently they still have 3 miscellaneous anchors because this was months ago that this was run. But then I can go right here and highlight the brand anchors, and I can see there are 16 of them. So I can come back over here and I can put brand anchors so that you see the data has changed. If we go back to this again, let's get a total number of links. There's 20 rows of data with a heading row or heading column, or heading row, excuse me. So there's 19 backlinks, right? So we go back here and I would update this to 19 backlinks. We got 16 brand URLs, 3 miscellaneouses, and you can see that there was another 1 put in here as empty frame, which is no longer there. And that's why this number here does not match this number. That's the only reason that's there, is just to make sure that there are no errors. This number should match this number after you've plugged in all the data. If it doesn't, there's a discrepancy somewhere, which happened to be that one right there. Does that make sense? And so all of that was to just get to the point that I was trying to make, was once we have done that for the target assets, as well as for the top ranked competitors, we have formulas in place that just automatically, you see the formula right there. It just gives us an average number of backlinks for the top ranked competitors for that specific search query. And that tells me, okay, here is their average anchor text ratios, which are averaged out through here. If that makes sense. Well, it's actually through here. But, and it creates this pie chart. And the reason that we do that is because Google likes what these 5 websites are doing. That's why they're on page 1 for that search query, right? Now, of course, we're not looking at any on-page factors at all. All we are looking at is purely external backlink profile. We get an idea of what Google likes strictly concerning an off-page backlink profile, right? And we average it out because that gives us a kind of target that we can model our own assets, anchor text profile, and link quantity after. As I said, a lot of the times clients come to me and they already have many, many times more backlinks than what the average number are. And that's, nothing we can do about that. But like in this case, I have 10 backlinks pointing to, and it's probably different now, but 10 backlinks pointing to that page versus 14 is the average number. So that tells me, okay, what I always try to do is try to never exceed. I try not to exceed the average number of backlinks of what the competitors are for that specific query, if that makes sense. Again, that's not always possible. In fact, oftentimes it's not possible, but I try not to exceed that number. And then this gives me something that I can model the own. It's not as important for these guys, but it is for this. For the money site, it's important to get that close to that. It doesn't have to be exact. This is just an average, but close to that. And I say this on every one of my sales calls. The 80-20 rule applies here, guys. I'm managing over 70 different link building projects now for clients across all different kinds of industries, across multiple different countries now. And I have access to an enormous amount of data. And I analyze every one of these projects personally. That's no bullshit. I have my team and a project manager that does a lot of the work, but every single one of these locations come by me twice per month. I always analyze the assignments that my project manager, when she does domain target URL and anchor text assignments, before it goes to the build team, I review it. So I make modifications to anchor text and target URLs for every project, for every location, every month. And then after the builds are done, I'm the one that prepares the reports. And so by analyzing and looking at this data across all these industries, I've started to see patterns and trends emerge. And what's really interesting is 80% of the time, the average anchor text ratio for the top 5 ranked competitors for a local search query is between 40 to 60% brand anchors, right? 40 to 60% brand/URL anchor text category. So that's why I always tell people, whenever you're in doubt what kind of link to build or anchor text to build, back to the money site, just go with brand. Just go with the brand anchor, because that is what I see the most of. And for local projects anyways. And so you can see that this is a fairly clean link profile compared to the competitors, right? So now I'm going to get back to the question that was asked. So how many rebuilds or tier 1 links do I build? Well, in this case, I would say, okay, I've got roughly 4. I could go more if needed, but I try not to exceed that number if possible. And if I am going to exceed that number, I'm going to try not to exceed it by much. And when you have a relatively low number of backlinks, like this particular search query does, then you really try not to go over and above that more than just a couple of links if needed. But when you have significantly higher, so let's say there was, 65 backlinks was the average, then you can potentially go, 10 links higher, and it's not that big of a deal, right? It's like a percentage base. The lower the number of the lower average number of links for the competitors, the less you want to, the less number of links you want to go over and above that, because it's a larger overage percentage. I don't know if that makes sense, but when you have, if the average number of links were 80 and you went over 10%, you'd only be at 80 links, right? Or if you went over 8 links, you'd only be up, if your target URL had 88 links, it would be 10% over the average. But in this case, like if there's 14 and I went to 20 links, then aren't you like already 25, 30% higher? Does that make sense? So that's why I said it varies. It's always it's not a percentage based as far as like how many tier 1 links do I do. If I've got 50 domains, am I going to do 25% at tier 1? No, I don't. I don't know how that would be even logical, like if that makes sense. I look at the data and determine, but we're only looking at the URL level here. I know I was going to talk about Google Ads and I don't even know we're going to get to that now, but I can run through it because I've got a help file that I'm going to send you guys. But what I'm saying is that's just at the URL level. If you want to look at the we always start at the page level, guys. There's page level metrics and domain level metrics. There's page level relevance. There's domain level relevance. Right? Same thing goes with backlink profiles. You start at the page level, because you always start there. That's the most local type of, that's what you have to manipulate, the page level first. Like I said, if I can manipulate my anchor text ratios and topical trust flow categories into an appropriate range and stay under the average number of links, that's what I'm going to do. And as soon as I've done that, like this one, I don't know what the topical trust flows is. I haven't looked at this in forever, and I've neglected my tree service agency this year for sure. There's no question I've neglected that, but my link building business is doing very well. So that's why. But you can see this is a clean link profile. I mean, look at that. Those are all 4 of those. That one, not as much. Science agriculture is a decent one. That one's not fully relevant. But these other 3 categories, and 96.5% basically is business, construction, and maintenance, which is fully relevant. Does that make sense? So I don't need to build any more links to that specific page, right? Anchor text ratio is good. Topical trust flow categories are good. So I can do all of my link building for this project at tier 2. But as far as, but I also would want to look at we always have to, and here's that other thing, and this was not what I intended to teach on today, guys, but somebody asked, and I love talking about this stuff if you can't tell. Let me do one other thing. I'm going to go to bulk backlinks, and we're going to take the top ranked competitors. In fact, we'll start with this one, because we're going to look at this at 2 different levels as well. And I might just very quickly go over the Google Ads stuff, because I got a help file for you guys. It's an article and whatever. Anyway, I'm going to take these. One other thing I want to do before I analyze all of these, because we have to look at the root domain too, guys, which is an aggregate of all the backlinks pointing to the site, no matter where they're pointing, whether it's in the specific URL or a home page, or excuse me, an inner page or a post or a subdomain, wherever backlinks are pointed. So we always start at the page level to be competitive at the page level, but then we always have to zoom out and look at the root domain, because there's a lot of other factors that are going to determine whether that page ranks besides external backlinks. There's on-page factors, there's internal link juice that is flowing to that page. So you have to look at the rest of the sites, the competitor sites, in order to determine what else do you need. We always start at the page level, because you can solve that quickly, right? With relatively little amount of work, you can manipulate anchor text ratios and topical trust flow at a page level. But then the real work starts on the rest of the site, the rest of the domain, right? And so I'm going to take these real quick, and we're going to trim these down. Let me just show you. I've got a URL trimmer here. I'm going to paste them in. I'm going to trim to root, And now I'm going to copy those domains to clipboard and go back to the bulk backlink checker in Majestic and paste those in. And we'll do a search on that. All right, and I'll zoom in on this a little bit, but now we can compare the target asset against the top ranked competitors in the order in which we found them at the time that this report was generated. And we can get a very quick glance at a domain level now, instead of a page. We can do it at the page level too, right? But we've already determined that we're good on the page level, right? We can see all that right here. But what I'm saying now is at the root level, now we're, again, the page level stuff can be solved rather quickly, but the rest of the stuff, now we're looking at the domain metrics. Bartlett is a national company. That's why they have, or at least they're all up and down the East Coast. I don't know if they're national, but they're on the East Coast. They're a big ass company on the East Coast. They may be national, but anyway, so that's why they've got such good metrics. And you can see the number of backlinks. They're a little bit of an outlier compared to the rest of these, but they do residential tree care work in the area. So they are a competitor, right? It's not a directory site, but you can see now the difference in backlinks. And we can very quickly determine like who's got the cleanest and the strongest and most relevant link profiles. And mine's the second strongest compared to, Bartlett, because Bartlett is, again, a big company, and they've got, and what is that? That's in the home. I wonder if it's in home/gardening, but we could always go take a look at it and see. Yeah, it is. See how this is a big, see, science environment, another one, science/agriculture. Those are relevant categories. But I mean, look at this company, like, guys, that's why I'm saying I see this all the time through all the data that I have access to from all the locations that I manage. The best ranked companies are typically going to have topical trust flow in the appropriate categories, right? I mean, it's not always the case. We always find examples where that's not the case, but the majority of the time, more often than not, we're going to see that the top ranked competitors are going to have the appropriate topical trust flow categories, right? So anyway, I know that was a lot to get through because I really went deep into that. I've still got 38 minutes, so I think I can still get to what I want to. And hopefully that was a thorough answer for Ryan. Ryan, was that thorough? I think you were on. It's probably more than you needed. But I think that's important, guys, because if you're going to be doing backlink analysis, you want to make sure, like in competition analysis, you want to make sure you're analyzing the right data. If you're only looking at one URL, you're not getting the full picture. And if you're only looking at page level metrics, you're not getting the full picture. And if you're looking at shitty, low quality links that have no effect on your ranking, then you're diluting the data, right? Because you're not getting accurate data. And that's why, like I said, I like using the fresh index from Majestic. Again, it's Majestic's own proprietary. By the way, Google still has all of those shitty links. How do you know? Go to Search Console, do a link export, an external link export, and you'll see Google has stuff that's not even indexed will be in your link profile according to Search Console. That means Google's crawled it. It doesn't have to be indexed. As long as Google's crawled it, it will show up in your external link export from Search Console, which means Google still knows those links are there. But are they giving any value to those links? And you guys already know the answer to that. If they're shitty links, they're not relevant, they're on sites that never get any traffic, is Google going to give those links any value? Of course not, right? So that's the whole point. That's why I like using the fresh index from Majestic, because it filters all that stuff out, again, according to Majestic's own algorithm, but it seems to be effective using that data. Okay, anyway, I'm going to move on to the money site. Yeah, okay, so that's it. Oh, and then the last thing I do want to point out is I don't think James is still here because I think he said he had to go, but if you guys saw this, we had a redirect for the local link building diagram, and apparently the redirect was broke. And so the smshort.link, I have a 404 to start plugin on that WordPress site because it's just I just have WordPress installed for Pretty Links so that we have our own link shortener. And if it's a 404 error, it goes to the homepage, which is just, what's his name? Sam Jackson. Anyway. Apparently that redirect was broke. I fixed it now, so it goes to this. So anyway, let me copy that URL. I'll put that in the chat in case you guys want it. But this is also kind of how I determine, and I'll get back to questions, I promise. This is also how I determine what kind of links to build and where. So as I mentioned, once I have kind of manipulated anchor text ratios and topical trust flow into the appropriate category, or appropriate range, I should say, then we shift, well, we start looking for other targets on the money site that we can build links to, strategic places. And what I'm going to have to demonstrate this now too. Let me just show you an example. Let's just use this Donegan's tree service, which might even still be open. No, it's not. I just want to show something, guys, as an example of where else, like how do we determine where else to build links across the site? Well, right here. I'm going to copy that version of the URL because that's the most current version of it, right? As we already proven, right? You see that version of it. So that's the most current version of it. Then I'm going to change to the root domain. Then I'm going to go to pages. Then I'm going to go to URL starts with, and I'm going to paste that version of the URL in. And now this is going to show me, and there's only two. This is not a good example. Let's go with Genesis Tree Service because this has got a bunch of pages on it. So we'll switch this up and we'll go with we'll just copy the most current version of the homepage URL. And we're going to go to pages. URL starts with, paste that in, click go. Okay, so this has got a lot. But what we'll start to notice is you'll start to see, like in a lot of cases, and because this is a multi-location business, there's a lot more equal distribution across location pages. Most of the projects that I look at, the homepage is going to have sometimes 10, 15 times more the number of backlinks than any other page on the site. And that's normal. That's a natural looking link profile. The homepage for local businesses typically has many, many more backlinks than any other page on the site. That's normal. But that gives us an opportunity. In some cases is way imbalanced. Like some cases, the homepage will have literally hundreds of links built to it. And the next page with the number of backlinks to the next, the page with the next page with the highest number of backlinks is like 20. I'm not kidding. And like sometimes that's a huge imbalance, right? So there's a lot of missed opportunity there. So that's why I'm saying, like in this case, it's distributed fairly evenly because this has been a multi-location brand for years. So, but you can see like the homepage has 41 backlinks built to it. Manassas page, which that GMB got suspended. That was my oldest tree service Google business profile, and it just got suspended about 2 months ago. The oldest one, the very first tree service GMB profile that I ever set up, or Google business profile I ever set up, was originally called Manassas Tree Service, and it changed brands. Eventually, it became Genesis Tree Service. And I've had that one since 2013. And about 2 months ago, it got suspended. 4 of the Genesis Tree Service locations got suspended in about a 24-hour period. I thought they were all going to drop like flies. I just assumed that the rest of them were all going to get suspended. But 4 of them got suspended in a 24-hour period, and none of the others have, knock on wood, yet. But that one got suspended. Anyways, pissed me off too. And I think it was, I had one of my lead gen buyers from the Leesburg location, the one we were just looking at for the example. He was a lead buyer for over a year, buying pay-per leads from me, like on a pay-per lead basis. He was buying through Lead Simplify. He was buying leads from me for over a year. Well, then he reached out, and I ended up offering him a revenue share model, which I've done with my best tree guys after I've established a relationship. And I put him on revenue share model, and he didn't pay me for one fucking lead for 2 months. And at the end of 2 months, I fired his ass. And I think he reported some of the locations, and for whatever reason, I don't know that, but my assumption is because it was about 2 weeks after I fired his ass that they started dropping it. That's my assumption. I can't prove that, but my assumption is that he reported them. Anyway, what I'm saying out here is, guys, is look, you see 41 links to this page. Then there's 18, 18, 14, 14. Again, this is a bit more evenly distributed, but what I typically see is a lot of links built to the homepage. And then the next page might have like 1 or 2, seriously. And in the rest of the pages, a lot of them don't even have any links built at all. So these become the other targets. Now, this is a multi-location business, so it's a bit different. But if it's a single location business, you can start finding other pages on the site that you can build links to, so that you distribute it more evenly and you can inject topical relevance into strategic areas. What are some of the best places to do it? Well, here's an idea, guys. If you're using tags, if you're doing blogs, if you're publishing blog posts and you're using tags or category archives that aren't redirected to a top of silo page, those become great link building targets. Why? Because you can hit those tag archive pages or blog archive pages. I generally redirect I said blog archives, but category archive pages. I generally redirect the category URLs to the top level silo. or top of silo page, right? But tag archives, you know, you can hit those with whatever, like topic anchors, not target, but topic anchors that are optimized for that tag and variants of that tag. And now you're kind of injecting relevance to all of the posts that share that tag. Does that make sense? So there's a lot of, you know, you can find very key points on the site that that could use backlinks, because they don't have like this is a topical page, not a location page, and it only has 6 backlinks to it, right? So again, I let the data tell me how many links to build at tier 1 instead of trying to guess or use some random formula that you just make up, like a percentage base. And Ryan, I'm not picking on you if you're still here. I'm just explaining why I don't, you know, I always use data now to determine how to build backlinks and where to build them, and the volume of links and everything else. Okay. Anyway, it's a really good question. Oh yeah. And I'm sorry, I meant to get back to this. But these are kind of like, you know, once you've kind of manipulated the target into an appropriate range, both anchor text profile as well as topical trust flow, then you can really shift most of your focus. If you're going to continue building links to tier 1 or to tier 0, so tier 1 links to your tier 0 asset in this money site, then you can use what I just showed you, right? Going and looking at the backlink profile of the pages to determine, to find other targets. But what I recommend is that you slow down at reduce the number of tier 1 links that you're building, or the speed, the velocity in which you're building links to direct to the money site, and start shifting that towards tier 2, because you can be super aggressive at tier 2, right? So that's tier 2 links powering up tier 1 assets. You can be really aggressive here, and you can go heavy on target anchors. And this, by the way, these are not, I don't always build target anchors at tier 2. It's about a 3-to-1 ratio. About every 3 target anchors and it's never a hard and fast rule. These are just kind of guidelines that we go by, but we do about 3 target URLs and in 1 topic, or anchors, 3 target anchors in 1 topic to a brand. Typically it's going to be a brand anchor on this at tier 1, typically, not always, but typically. Does that make sense? And then at tier 3, when we go out to tier 3, which isn't all that necessary except for the most competitive areas, we do almost exclusively topic anchors, right? But it's just like a funnel, guys. This would be top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. Does that make sense? And here's conversion. If you're thinking about it in those terms, top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel, conversion, right? So, okay, moving on. Okay, we already answered that question. Okay, Ryan, sorry, man, I went real heavy on that. Hopefully that was helpful. Yeah, and I know I probably answered it way more than I needed to, but I think I love talking about link building, in case you couldn't tell. All right, I'm going to move on. Try to answer a couple more questions, guys, and then I'm just going to run through the Google Ads stuff. We still got 30 minutes, or roughly 30 minutes, but I probably won't get to go in that as thoroughly as I expected. All right, Messiah says, do you, no, I already answered that one. I assume you do the backlink analysis on the homepage as well as the page that you want to rank. Yeah, as I just said, whatever the client submits. All right, so like this is the location landing page. See how that's an inner page, because this is a multi-location business. So we would analyze the backlinks to that location landing page, because that's the URL that's associated with the Google business profile for this location. Does it make sense? It's not the homepage. In single location businesses, it's going to be the homepage URL is the website, is the location landing page, right? It's the website. My definition of location landing page is the landing page associated with the Google business profile. What is the website URL that is listed in the Google business profile? That is what I call location landing page. In single location businesses, it's almost always going to be the homepage URL. In multi-location businesses, it should be its own unique landing page, an inner page. One of our members that's doing the directory build stuff, he's the mastermind member. I'm not going to name him, but he had me analyze a project for potentially white label, for me to do the SEO for him on a white label basis. And the project that he had me analyze had 4 locations, and all 4 locations, which were 4 separate unique locations, all in the same city. They had separate physical, addresses and separate phone numbers, but they all shared the same homepage URL. And he was asking like for me to analyze it. And I analyzed the project and said, well, this is why it's not ranking well, because you've got all 4 locations are all sharing the homepage URL as the website URL. And there's 4 embedded maps and all 4 locate on the homepage. And there has 4 separate NAPs, name, address, and phone numbers on the homepage URL. And I said, Google has no idea what to do with that. If there's one main location, which was the original location, and then there was 3 subsequent locations that were added as the business grew, then the homepage URL should only be associated as the location landing page for that first location. The other 3 should be made as inner pages, its own separate unique landing page. And all 3 of those subsequent Google business profiles should have the website URL as the internal location landing page. And I said, I can build all the backlinks I want to this, and it's probably never going to perform well until the structural issues are corrected. Does that make sense? So to get back to your question, we analyze the location landing page. And then, like I said, we always start at the page level to manipulate anchor text ratios to an appropriate range and topical trust flow into an appropriate range, and try to do that without exceeding the average number of backlinks. And once we accomplish that, which is generally fairly easy, then we zoom out and look at the root domains of the competitors and compare that to our own or our target assets backlink profile across the entire domain, and start to figure out what else do we need to do to be competitive. Does that make sense? That's what I just described. So just very quickly, the last thing, and I know I wanted to get to the other stuff, but like if we go back to this Donegan's tree service thing, and we remove that filter, and we're looking at all the backlinks now pointing to this specific, we're looking at pages. Let's go to backlinks. I was wondering why data was less. Anyway, we take a look at this. Like I said, we can then, I go through this on my sales calls for semantic links. I always go through the same process, but I show, okay, at a root level, now we can start to determine there's backlinks. We're looking at 1 backlink per referring domain. There's 29 referring domains. And now we can start to determine which of these links are truly competitive. Do we have to build 29 backlinks to our target asset in order to be competitive? No, not at all. And I can show you that. If I go to status and we just look at live, we just eliminated 3 of them, which is 10% of the overall backlink profile, right? Because there's only 30 links, 29, we just eliminated 3, right? So we just eliminated 10% of the backlinks. Now, look at do follow, no follow. We're going to go to do follow only, 15 links, 15 referring domains. Now, out of those 15 links, 11 of them are trust flow 0. You guys get that? Like there is a cumulative effect from a quantity of trust flow value links, or trust flow 0 value links. There's a cumulative effect from that do have some measurable effect. But on an individual link level, they're insignificant. They're not worthy of analysis. Does that make sense? So we can now, if we there's only 4 links in the trust flow 1 to 20, or links from 4 referring domains that are in the trust flow 1 to 20 range. So these are the only 4 links that could be providing some measurable value to this location. Now we can analyze each one of these backlinks and determine, is it really providing value or not? And how can we do that? Well, on a local level, we look at, first of all, the topical trust flow category, and we determine, is it relevant? Is it related? And somehow, is it relevant? Business/real estate, of course, to a tree service company. Yeah, of course, that's related. So there's relevance there. Low trust flow value, but topically relevant. Then we also look at, so arts and crafts, is this relevant? Well, first of all, that is not a relevant category, but we also know that this is from a scraper site. We can tell that from the domain. It's one of those scraper sites. There is 0 value to this backlink. I don't care what the trust flow says. This trust flow could be 60. It provides 0 value. There's no topical relevance. There's no location relevance. And Google knows that this is a scraper site, so it absolutely discredits this link. So that's why people that go off of trust flow value and don't look at topical relevance, it's stupid. That's like going after UR or DR rating or PA or DA rating. Like there's no, remember guys, if there's no relevance, from the link, either topically or geographic relevance, do you think Google provides any value to that link? Think about it. No. And that's why like this, somebody, well, that's a trust flow 13. That ought to be providing some value. But no, Google knows this is a scraper site. That link provides 0 value. There's no topical relevance. There's no location relevance. And it's a scraper site that Google, trust me, knows it's a scraper site. So this one here, business, construction, and maintenance, there's topical relevance there. This is a directory site. And these, by the way, these are always really strong links. And I don't know why. Homebrew is always strong links. But you see how it says notable duplicate, guys? Remember I was talking about the tagging, distinct, notable duplicate, right? So my point is, on a local level, you can look at the topical categories of the link and determine, is it relevant, or is it is there some sort of topical connection where it would be, there's a connection made, right? Is it a relevant topic, or is it a related category, or is there location or geographic relevance? What do I mean by that? Well, to rank an organic search for local, national, global, e-com, affiliate, I don't care what kind of project it is. If you want to rank an organic search, topically relevant links matter. Full stop, right? If you want to rank in maps, topically relevant links have an influence on maps. But what has a greater influence on ranking in maps are geographically relevant links, meaning if you can get links from other businesses in the same general area that are somewhat close in proximity to the business. So here's the thing. You can get links that aren't topically relevant from other local businesses, local chamber of commerce, businesses or other companies and vendors that you do business with in the same general area, local news and media sites. Those kind of links may not have topical relevance, but they have location relevance. Those have a significant effect on maps ranking. So I make this kind of analogy or an example on a lot of my sales calls for links, which is like, for example, a tree service company. Let's say a personal injury attorney has an office and they had a tree that got hit by lightning and it needs to be removed in their parking lot of the law firm, right? So they call Donegan's Tree Service. Donegan's Tree Service comes out, does a tree removal job, and the personal injury attorney in the same Leesburg area, the same city, right? Same general area, publishes a post on their blog thanking Donegan's Tree Service for the job well done. That link is going to be society/law, is going to be the topical trust flow category if they have a clean backlink profile. Most attorneys do. And so it's not going to be a topical match, but Google knows that entity, that law firm, that personal injury law firm is a local entity. Google knows that. So that link is incredibly valuable, even though there's no topical relevance for maps ranking, right? Now, if you can get a link from other companies in the same general area, so there's location or geographic relevance as well as topical relevance, so closely related categories. So let's say a tree service, Donegan's Tree Service, gets a link from a landscaper that they refer business to each other, because not all tree companies do landscaping and not all landscapers do tree business or tree work, right? So my point is a local landscaper that refers tree removal jobs to the tree company, and the tree company refers landscaping jobs and lawn care jobs to the landscaping company, and they link to each other. Now those are both topically relevant, business/construction and maintenance, or home/gardening, or one business/agriculture and forestry, one of those topical categories, which are relevant. And it's local, it's a local link. That's the best kind of link. And these trust flow values at that level don't really matter. Does that make sense, guys? Like, honestly, I just had an example. I was talking with one of my link building prospects. It's not a client yet, but I hired a company a while back to do prospecting and appointment setting for me. And they're phenomenal, by the way. It's expensive, but they're really good. If anybody's ever interested in that, let me know, because I can hook you up with them. Highly recommend them. Really, really good. Anyway, so they go out and find and they target local SEO and local marketing agency owners. And that is who they schedule, book appointments, sales calls with me. Like this company that I hired finds them, does all the messaging, and sets the appointment. And I pay a setup fee, and I pay $250 per booked appointment. Okay. And this was just, I think it was on Monday this week. I was on with a local SEO or a local marketing agency owner, and he submitted, because we do a competition analysis on the sales call. When somebody schedules a call with me, they submit a location. Doesn't matter whether it's one of their client locations or their own location for their marketing agency, or just something that they pull out of the air. Like, seriously, as long as it's a valid location, it's just so that we can create a competition analysis report and then go through what I kind of just demonstrated for you guys on this webinar today, which is we start analyzing the backlinks, the anchor text, all that kind of stuff. And he was showing me that because he used his own kind of digital marketing, and he's in Florida. Anyways, he wanted us to do the competition analysis for digital marketing agency. And the top ranked competitor that was beating him out, that was in number one, they had a bunch of backlinks that were not topically relevant. They're ranked number one. They solidly number one across the local search grid report. And in our analysis, what I do on these sales calls, exactly what I just kind of went through with you guys, we were analyzing the backlink profile and determining what are the truly competitive links. And we were going through one by one by one, and he was looking at them and saying, yeah, they're ranking incredibly well in maps, even though their topical trust flow categories were not really appropriate. And they had a lot of links with low trust flow values, which again, that doesn't really mean much to me, the trust flow numbers themselves. It's about topical relevance or location relevance. And what he was able to determine through going on a backlink by backlink basis and analyzing them as I just described, he was able to say, yeah, that's a local business. That's a local business. That's a local business. Topical categories weren't right. They weren't related. They weren't relevant, but they were, and where were they? Because it was a web design and local marketing company that put their their link in the footer of the site. And they had dozens of local businesses that they had built sites for that had their footer link in the footer for their agency. And so they were ranking incredibly well in maps. They weren't ranking so well organically, but they were ranking like solidly number one across the search grid for the primary keyword. And they were fully, it was a sea of green, you know what I mean? And through the analysis, the competition analysis that I went over with him on the sales call, he had an aha moment, right? He was like, oh man, like I get it. He was like, I never wanted to put my own link in the footer because I always thought that looked spammy. And if it wasn't relevant, it wasn't going to help. And I was like, no, for maps ranking, it absolutely helps if you're getting clients in the same local area. If you're going nationwide, then it's more about organic than it is about maps, right? Does that make sense? But if you're a local agency and you build sites and take on clients in a local area, get a link from your local clients on their blog, a footer if possible. That's going to significantly influence maps. And it doesn't matter what the topical categories are for that. For organic, it might, but for for maps ranking, it's about the location relevance. And these trust flow values mean nothing at that point. Do you understand what I'm saying, guys? Organic ranking is more about topical relevance. Maps ranking is more about geographic relevance. And the topical categories don't matter for that, and neither do trust flow values. Remember, trust flow is nothing but a proprietary measure, according to Majestic, of link quality, but that does not take in that topical relevance, right? Anyway, I know I just went deep onto that as well. I love this stuff though, guys. And I'm telling you, when you start to see, if you start analyzing projects for just your own projects that you work on for your agency or your own projects, you start analyzing competitors at this level, right? What I mean, like going in and going deep into the analysis and looking at individual backlinks, you're going to start to recognize these things yourself. Like, you can take my word for it, but I would encourage you to go do research on your own, and you'll start to identify this stuff, and you'll start to see. And that's why I instruct my link building clients all the time. Look, we're going to focus on topically relevant links, hence the name semantic links. We don't focus on the local links. That's your job. That's your job as either the consultant or the agency owner, or as the business owner, the local business owner. Because I do have some clients that are just have businesses and they want me to do link building for them. It's few and far between, but I tell my agency and consultants that I service, I tell them like, hey, that's your job to get, or you instruct your client to get local links. Join the local chamber of commerce. Try to get local news to report on them, whether it's in print, online, whatever. All of that is going to have an effect on local ranking. Try to get your vendors that they do business with in their same general area to do link exchanges. All of that is going to help significantly for maps ranking. We focus on topically relevant links, which has an influence on maps ranking, but not near as much as geographically relevant links. And you can take that to the bank. In case you guys just test it on your own, I promise you'll see significant difference. Okay. Do you do an analysis for every keyword and every page you want to rank? Seems like a lot and a lot of analysis. It is, but that's what it takes. We do that. We do that. Like, we always start with the primary keyword and the location landing page. Almost all, like 90% of my projects are local. I do have a few national projects now that aren't local at all. But I try to stick with local because that's what I do. I mean, but link building is link building. I can do other kind of link building projects, but I prefer local because that's just what I've always done. It is a lot of work, but you know, that's why this is a different link building service than most of the other ones out there, right? The speed at which you build backlinks is important, especially to tier 0. Does that also apply to tier 2 and tier 3 backlinks? No, not really. You can be a hell of a lot more aggressive at tier 2 and tier 3, Matthias. That's why I say I always just try to build tier 1 links to manipulate anchor text profiles and topical trust flow in an appropriate range. And then I shift almost all of my link building activities to tier 2 or tier 3, but only in the most competitive areas do we have to go out to tier 3. And you can be so much more aggressive at tier 2. We got about 10 more minutes, guys. So I don't know that I'll get to the Google Ads stuff at all, other than to just say, here's a help file, go read it. And Jay says, what should one look out for in a homepage's link profile if we updated a single location domain to multi-location? Now I have the locations on location folders, root domain versus new subdomain, link building, rehab. Well, if you've got locations and location folders, so are you talking about like separate directories in the host, and they each have their own separate WordPress install or site install on locations, or excuse me, in directory folders? Because that all acts like it's an inner page, right? That's a better way to do it for SEO, is to have either inner pages, or if you're going to have separate site installations in directories, subdirectories of the root domain, that's stronger for SEO than subdomains. Subdomains, I always preferred subdomains over doing it as directories or inner pages. If I was going to separate things out, like with separate site installs, I always prefer to do it on subdomains. But SEO wise, it's stronger if you do it in subdirectories, because subdomains are treated as new independent sites, right? And so but anything that is a directory of the root is going to benefit from the authority built to the root domain instantly, right? The moment you publish a new site that's in a directory, a subfolder of the root domain, it is going to instantly have those page and domain metrics or domain level metrics. It's going to instantly inherit that, right? Subdomains do not. Subdomains are going to be treated as new sites, basically, like new entities. They can still be tied to the same entity, but they're going to be treated as like new sites, right? And so it takes a little bit longer. They're still going to benefit. It still benefits, inherits some of the authority from the root domain, but it's not as much as if it was an inner page or if it's a separate site in a subfolder or directory of the root. Does that make sense? But years ago, I used to do a lot of subdomain stuff for multi-location businesses, like what I was showing here with Genesis Tree Service. At one time, that had like 23 locations, but I rebranded some of the stuff and separated them out into different geographic regions under a different brand and all that kind of stuff. And when I first set that kind of brand up, everything was on subdomains. In fact, you could probably even go to the historic index and see a lot of backlinks built to old subdomains of genesistreeservice.net. But that becomes a bit of a nightmare trying to manage multiple WordPress installations. Like, it's just stupid. It's just a lot more headache. And then I stopped doing a lot of spammy stuff. So I moved everything to the root, right? And that's why everything's inner pages now. So, yeah, I'm not sure, Jay. I didn't know there's all that many more questions. Yeah, that was the plan, to consolidate the domains to one domain, making one big authoritative site. Yeah, and that's why I like to do that, because in fact, one of my other link building clients sent me a message, an email asking me, because he wants to expand. He does lead gen in the catering business, and he wanted to expand. And he was asking me just today. Well, he sent an email yesterday. I replied to him today, but he asked me just today about, he said, like, hey, I want to build another catering lead gen site. And he was asking about, because he's in Northern Virginia area. And he was asking about, like, should I add a location modifier to the domain and blah, blah, blah. And I explained to him, because he's got a few already that I do link building for, and they're all separate brands. They're all set, and all of them so far have been pigeonholed into a specific city because he included a location modifier in the domain and in the brand name. And I told him, don't do that, man. You're starting from scratch every time. Build a brand. Build a branded name. Like if you're going to be in the the Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C. metro area, there is an acronym called DMV, which stands for DC, Maryland, Virginia. And I said, if you're going to add a location modifier to anything, since that's where all your catering work is up in the Northern Virginia, DC, and Southern Maryland area, then don't add, city names, Leesburg, Fairfax, Ashburn, all those different kind of names. Because then every time you start, you got to start from scratch, like with a whole new entity. You've got to establish an entity, validate it, and all of that. It's better to pick a brand name and maybe append DMV to it or prepend DMV to it, which again, is Google recognizes that acronym is for DC, Maryland, Virginia. So if you're going to do that, build a brand on that kind of a modifier. Or if you wanted to stick to just Virginia, put a VA or Virginia modifier in, because now you can build multiple assets, multiple locations as inner pages, and you will instantly benefit from the authority built to the established entity. Does that make sense? Instead of starting over from scratch. And so that's how I prefer to do it now as well, is to build the entity. That's why I like to do branded stuff. One of the things that I, for POFU Live, I've got a pretty fun brand for tree service stuff. And you guys will see that when it's appropriate time. Anyway, a couple more minutes, guys. Last question. Do you build links until you rank, or do you build a damn strong profile that no one can penetrate? Or to build a, yeah, I mean, it depends. It depends on the client. Like, what do they want? Some clients, once they get the desired results, they want to stop or reduce the number of links that they're being built, and that's fine. No reason to continue. Clients that have the budget and don't want to lose gains that they've made, they just keep it going. So it just depends. My own stuff, for my own stuff, generally for maps, because I focused only on maps for a long time. Generally, I get the map to rank. And then we slow back. Or for lead gen stuff, we pull back because it reduces overhead until we start to see some, where it needs it again, and then we boost it again. But for client on retainer, of course, the retainers are paying for it every month. So we continually build, Like I said, we also always look to expand the number of keywords. We look to push on proximity if it's map stuff. So there's always work that can be done to continue improving. Does that make sense? Okay. One single WordPress site, Jay. Yeah, then that's what I would do. Thanks for clarifying. But yeah, I would do inner pages. And there's not much you can do about the homepage if it was one single location before. I mean, again, you can't really do much about existing backlinks that might have had like location modifiers in them that now longer wouldn't be really relevant, because the homepage is more about branding than it is about a particular location. There's not much you can do about that, but you can build branded anchors to the homepage to increase the overall anchor text ratios away from target to more brand, which is what I was demonstrating here. Again, 80-20 rule applies, guys. 80% of the time across every industry, as far as the local projects go, I see 40 to 60% brand anchors for the top 5 ranked competitors. I mean, it's almost like it's law. You know what I mean? Like a natural law. I see that over and over and over again. And so that's why it's made it easier to build links. You just build brand links. If you don't know what to build a brand link, not a URL anchor. I don't like to use URL anchors, brand links. Okay. Or compound, brand plus keyword, brand plus location, etc.